Holla holla! On this episode, we talk about Teddy Long, the AJ Cena promo segment, Primo and Epico, Shane getting Raw, and more now on Byte That. Hey gang, what's going on? You're listening to episode 146 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, the place where we do talk about that, which is the WWE. We always appreciate your support, sending the questions, dropping them reviews on iTunes, because we are available every single Tuesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, YouTube.com/Byte That Cast, and of course, Google Play Music. If there's a place where you can listen to podcasts, odds are we are probably there, as long as there is some kind of internet access. My name is Juan Velas. I am from the shining star of the Caribbean, which is San Juan, Puerto Rico. And joining me from Boston, Massachusetts, Mr. Ryan Savage McNulty. Ryan, there's not a third person here. What's happening?
Yeah, for certain circumstances, Keith is not here right now, so it's a two-man show this week. But before we started, I did want to say a quick note. First of all, thank you to everyone who has ordered the brand new Byte That t-shirt, which is available on whatamaneuver.net. However, we definitely have some concerns about any orders internationally. The shipping cost is definitely higher than we want it to be, and we just wanted to let everyone know that's something we're going to try to find a solution for. And we hope to update you relatively soon about that, but we just ask you guys to be patient.
In other words, Ryan is our Tyson Tomko right now. He's looking for the problem that needs to be solved. That's going to be happening, so just keep an eye out. And especially on the road to episode 150, we have a lot more announcements and cool things happening. And as I mentioned, we always appreciate that awesome support. Now, sort of tuning down this a little bit, I don't even know what to say at this point, because it's just been ridiculous. The past 2 years, we've lost so many people, related to the world of wrestling. And in this case, we had Muhammad Ali and most recently Kimbo Slice. Now, he's not necessarily a wrestler, but it's somebody that's involved in the mixed martial arts world. This is somebody that was highly recognized as a street fighter, and that's where he really got his fame, just being an all-out brawler. And Muhammad Ali, this guy was directly involved with WrestleManias and just so many segments with Gorilla Monsoon. And this frickin' sucks is the only way to put it, man. What you think about the recent passings?
Obviously, very sad to hear. Muhammad Ali, a guy I was actually very surprised to learn wasn't already in the WWE Hall of Fame, even though he's had a lot of contributions to the world of wrestling, and was a lot of his speeches and things like that were inspired by pro wrestling from guys like Gorgeous George and whatnot. But yeah, obviously complete legend. Very sad to hear of his passing. We know he suffered from Parkinson's disease, and so unfortunately his health had just kind of slowly gotten worse. But yeah, true just icon and legend. You learn all about him growing up. You hear him all the time. So many, quotes and memorable moments from him. And then Kimbo Slice, I honestly don't know a whole lot about, other than, I know he got into MMA kind of through street fighting or whatever. And recently, just as far as about a year ago, fought Ken Shamrock.
I believe he did, yeah. And this is somebody that many wrestlers always said, he was made for wrestling. I believe Tommy Dreamer actually sent out a tweet related to that. And then Muhammad Ali, even if you don't care about the world of boxing, and, I figured everybody listening, does care about the world of wrestling, this guy's an icon, right? You've heard the name Muhammad Ali. The same way we've lost so many other insanely talented and incredible people that, they're celebrities, but they help change the world, because they are people that will always be remembered for whatever it is they did. And Muhammad Ali definitely falls into that category. So, may both of you rest in peace. Our condolences to the families of both individuals. And I hope that we don't have to keep doing this year, because it's never an easy thing, not just because it's a podcast, but because it simply sucks. So let's actually now shift back to our traditional conversation where we do talk about our overall reactions and feelings regarding the latest episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, we're just about a week and a half away from Money in the Bank, so we're not too far off. We have 6 out of 7 entrants, so things are becoming clearer. Last week, we talked about the WWE draft and how that in some way may shape or change how the podcast is really happening. But before we delve into more draft conversation, which I know you're looking forward to getting into, what did you think of the overall show?
To me, it was just kind of it was boring to me, to be honest. There was a few highlights, of course. We're going to talk about the AJ and Cena promo. And anytime Enzo and Cass are on screen, that's when I'm really paying attention. But for the most part, the past 2 weeks, Raw has just felt like a mostly boring show. I mean, it is a big concern for me that they are splitting the brands, because it seems like they're having trouble filling Raw as it is with things that are interesting. And we've already seen a lot of recycled matchups. And it's very concerning for the brand split, because a lot of those matchups are going to be even more recycled. So it's really just more of like, this Raw is kind of making me fear for the future.
It's a tough thing, right? As a tradition, every week we reach out to everybody listening on Twitter, Byte That Cast, with the patented, we should patent this, because I mentioned that we really haven't, the out of 4 rating scale. We asked you, what did you think of WWE Monday Night Raw? Now, it's a bad, meh, good, and great. 44%, the highest voting, gave it a 2 out of 4 with meh, followed by number 3, stating it was good. Yeah, we don't have Keith here. So, and number 1 at 25%, third place, and 0% said it was great. So for 2 weeks in a row, not a single vote voting Raw as a great show, though at least second place it was good. But I sort of have to agree with what you said. I was breaking down sort of a Raw, because we've had this whole debate about 3 hours, so we're not going to keep, shoehorning that. But because I felt similar to how you did about this episode, I tried to figure out a challenge for myself. We always say, after the second hour, it feels like you could sort of tune out. So I gave myself a challenge. Okay, 2 hours are up. Whatever match it was there. And, I'm going to watch the last hour and really think to myself, does this contribute to the overall product in any real specific way? And what I think WWE is doing, and maybe you can give me some feedback about this, is it seems like the first 2 hours, you get specific storyline progression, like with AJ, right? Not only is he a bad guy, but you saw which type of bad guy he is, which I, by the way, love it. I think he's doing an awesome job. And in one night only, I think that the best thing they could have done was turn AJ into a bad guy. But it seems like the last hour, we had the Charlotte and Natty segment, it's things that just sort of progress things slower. Okay, we're just giving you another episode. Whereas the first 2 hours, it seems like they're definitely working more towards okay, key things are happening. And then the last one's just stay tuned for next week. Do you get that feeling?
The past several weeks, I definitely have. They're kind of just treading water in the last hour. I feel like they know people are giving up on it. I mean, yes, then they did kind of progress the Charlotte story. That's one thing. So they do try and keep one thing that's actually moving. But yeah, I just got to go back to the fact that it's just very concerning. It's I know I can't change WWE, but I wish
you can try. You can try.
Yeah, I know. It's just I wish, and I'm just being so wishful here, that they would take a quality over quantity philosophy. And I understand that circumstances with the USA Network and just the kind of the hole they've dug themselves in, their hands are tied for anything like that. But I remember the days where, you had SmackDown on Thursday and Raw on Monday, and both of them were 2 hours. that I looked forward to watching Raw, and I looked
so
forward
you mentioned that.
to watching
Let me cut you off here.
SmackDown.
Yeah, let me cut you off here. I got to put you on the spot because we have been talking about this. I get the feeling largely that you're not looking forward to the brand split. And let's really remove the whole, how will this affect the podcast or watching 2 episodes? Like, generally speaking, if you still told me, Juan, I'm going to keep watching Raw, I'm going to watch SmackDown via YouTube clips, does that change how you feel about this? Or does it still concern you more than makes you, sort of happy that maybe somebody gets a different spot now?
Rephrase that.
Okay. So Raw's 3 hours. SmackDown's
Yes.
2 hours. You've been open about the fact that you're going to watch Raw primarily. So is there any positive contribution that the draft has for you?
It definitely makes me want to check out SmackDown more. It's in a world where they had 2 evenly timed television shows that were 2 hours. I would definitely be more interested in it because there are a lot of guys who could benefit from a brand split. But because Raw is so exhausting, it's very difficult to get me to want to watch more wrestling. I used to love NXT, and it's kind of a shame now that I never watch it anymore. But it really is Raw that just kind of sucks the life out of me. And the fact now... I feel bad as a wrestling fan that when I hear there's a brand split, I'm like, damn it, that means I have to watch more wrestling. And that's messed up. It's weird that I have to say that, but it's because WWE is just churning out so much content that you can't keep up. Most television shows only demand 1 hour a week from you, or a half an hour. And most of the time, it only runs for like 6 months or something before it goes on a season break. But WWE just, already, when it was just Monday Night Raw in the 90s, before even SmackDown, they were demanding, at least, I don't know if they started out as 1 hour and moved to 2 hours. But a 2 hour show is already twice as long as any other drama TV show. And then they added SmackDown, and then they add a 3rd hour, and they just keep piling on. And it's too much to ask of anyone.
Now, it's sort of plain devil's advocate. This doesn't really solve the 3 hour scenario with Raw, which we've said time and time again. Please drop that last hour. It's painful. But because the scenario is that Raw has its own roster with storylines, and the same thing with SmackDown. Like, do you feel comfortable saying, yeah, WWE demands a lot from me, so I'll just watch Raw? But there's a different product, not including NXT for that matter. We're talking about the main roster. Or does that make you dirty on the inside, knowing that there is this other product that you're not consuming because, they sort of drowned you out?
Well, the thing is, I'm definitely going to still follow it because I'll read the SmackDown spoilers most weeks anyway. So even if I'm not going to watch SmackDown every week, they've now given me a reason to at least follow what's going on. I'll always want to read the results. If there's something I want to see, I'll watch it on YouTube. And if I feel like I want to watch it, I will. Although because we record on Tuesdays, it's going to be very difficult to always watch it live.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, the last little argument that I wanted to have here is how, and because I really don't know this, how can WWE responsibly say, hey, we're splitting up these 2 brands, right? It's going to be equal opportunity for everybody. Oh, but this one happens to have 1 more additional hour for basically no real reason, right? Because they're both live. They're both on the same network. They both have their own individual rosters. But SmackDown is always going to feel like the B show, especially because of that 3rd hour. Whether it's good or not, you're giving this one brand something. So I think now more than ever, drop that last hour. You want to have more people tune in on Tuesdays. Hell, I would love to have that last 1 hour less on Monday so I can do my prep, for work and everything. And then on Tuesday, we record the podcast and I watch SmackDown, even if we don't talk about it for the podcast, right? Me as a wrestling fan, I would like to have that option, but it feels like it's just too much. And I know that you primarily listen to Solid Monster Sounds Off, and he had something similar to say about that.
Yeah, no, he was kind of in the same boat of just the way the podcast is, like having to review SmackDown every week. It adds more. I mean, a lot of people listen to this show and they don't watch Raw. They kind of rely on us for a recap of Raw, and very similar with his show.
Thank you.
It's, so that means we watch the show every single week, and we love WWE, but sometimes it feels like they ask a lot of us. Yeah, the thing is, it's a double whammy because they made SmackDown important and they moved it to Tuesday. If it was still on Thursday, it's like, okay, you have 2 days to recharge your wrestling batteries before you watch another 2 hours of it. But now 5 hours in a 2-day span is insane.
Okay, so I'm going to point out, we are going to talk about some positive things, because I love me some bad guy AJ.
Yeah.
So
I know,
like,
we're complaining about a lot of things that we completely understand are mostly out of WWE's hands at this point. It's a lot of kind of network obligations, and not the WWE network, the USA network.
Exactly. But, we try every now and then. You got to have this real talk conversation, and keep in mind, like, how are you feeling, right? About not even just the product, but the logistics of consuming wrestling. Now, talking about the product, we had Teddy Long on Raw. So we can maybe dabble about that a little bit. But the one thing that I know that you're primarily hurting on is that, Shane was battling all this time for control of Raw. And even on this very same episode of Raw, Stephanie was not sure of who was going to run SmackDown. But later on, she basically said, I'm running SmackDown. Shane's on vacation, so this is going to be the thing. So as of right now, from what it looks like, Shane is going to be running Raw. Stephanie's going to be running SmackDown. WrestleMania, we can just, shove that somewhere deep inside the WWE network. Like, how are you feeling about this, that after so long, they're just handing it out?
I feel like it's a big slap in the face to The Undertaker that, he risked his body, and he's an old guy who shouldn't have to do these important matches if they're not going to matter. And yeah, they do this big spectacle match, and then in exactly the opposite outcome ends up happening. We don't see The Undertaker anymore, and Shane's just gonna get Raw anyway. And I feel like if Keith was here, he would be even more pissed, because I know that was a huge deal for him. Yeah. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. But I think what actually annoyed me more was, for 2 episodes they've kind of been on about Stephanie not knowing what's going to happen, who's going to run this, who's going to run that. And even as early as the beginning of the episode, she was still kind of ambiguous about what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden she just decides, because Teddy Long pisses her off enough, that she's just going to choose to run SmackDown.
It's Teddy's fault, man.
Yeah,
he loves them tag matches and everything, which, I almost got my hopes up, because I was thinking, okay, we get it. Teddy's here, so maybe they're going to have this thing where ex-GMs come out and sort of try to play out the best case scenario. So my God, are we going to see Eric Bischoff come back, who is the one and only best GM of all time, in my opinion? Can you get Mick Foley in there when he used to be commissioner? A lot of fun stuff. But the way, I don't know if Stephanie said that as just being arrogant, or if this was their official way of announcing it. But if it was, it's man, talk about dull, right? This shifts the product, because now you have a bad person in charge of SmackDown, you have a good guy in charge of Raw, but build up to it.
Well,
especially
yeah, I mean, I did go on
it.
about Shane getting Raw. I mean, has that been officially confirmed? Because they really just said Stephanie gets SmackDown. I don't know if WWE.com confirmed anything. Do you know about that?
No, as far as right now,
we're just kind of going on an assumption at this point.
Yeah, but it is the information that we got from Stephanie on Raw, right? So it's just a little bit weird. I hope, if this is the case, I'm all for a good guy person in charge of Raw, because, the authority, whether it be the authority itself or a bad group in charge of Raw, I'm done with it. Like, I don't want that anymore. But I do hope that it's somebody that has a presence, because I don't think Shane has had that ever since, like, the first week he was in charge of Raw, or the second week, really, because the first one he was basically non-existent. But I'm hoping that this really does become a shift in the product, like we mentioned last week. You know, maybe you switch it. So, like, one brand has women's wrestling, one has tag team, just so you get an incentive and you get a different kind of flavor.
And maybe even put an extra belt on Raw because they have the third hour, and then they can spend more time with the other belts, just kind of as a way to justify that third hour.
And just call it the third hour championship. Like, you know, like, we have this third hour and somebody needs to champion it. Good luck, Fandango. You're going to do great, man, feuding with Tyler Breeze and, like, Golden Truth and all that. Because why not? Now, let's actually talk about good things, happy times, because I'm going to get to Primo and Epico later.
Negative.
Now, we're going to get into the power of positivity, because we got a badass, awesome promo segment between Cena and AJ Styles. Now, I'm going to hold my reservations about Gallows and Anderson, because I do have other battles I want to pick this episode, but yeah, like, we've gotten the tweets, and I agree that the Bullet Club, the club, primarily Gallows and Anderson, they're irrelevant. Like anybody could play those guys right now. I'm not talking about their abilities or their talents, but they have no personality. So right now, so put the pitchforks down. So that's why I want this conversation to be about AJ and John Cena. What did you think about AJ now that he's officially a bad guy? And this is the first time ever since he cut that promo on Smackdown after he turned on Cena on Raw, where we get to see what kind of bad guy he is and what is his motive for even turning in the first place.
Yeah, I was not thrilled that they turned AJ in the first place, but I do like what they did with this promo. Basically, AJ is kind of taking a very similar route to Daniel Bryan with his feud with John Cena, kind of talking about his ability in the ring versus Cena's, and then justifying the presence of the Bullet Club or Gallows and Anderson. Their presence, basically, it's his insurance policy, so in case it looks like he's going to lose, he doesn't lose, so he can't end up like Rusev or Ryback or the Wyatts or whoever.
The shovels, man.
Yeah, he's avoiding the shovels.
Like, that really caught me off guard. Now, it's not the first time, that they sort of not necessarily break the fourth wall, but they do, address some things that people mention online, like with Cena. And I like that, because usually the bad guy will just justify in a really cheap manner like why he has company, but I love the fact that they did that for this, because it's like AJ's aware there's a Cena problem. Whenever you turn into a bad guy and you deal with Cena, something happens. We talked about this last week with Bray Wyatt, and the list goes on and on, Nexus, etc. So the fact they addressed that gives me some hope, keyword being some, not the hope part, some, that something different will come out of it. Now,
they're at least self-aware. Even if he does go down that same path, they recognize that it happens.
No, that's not good enough, though, because if they recognize that but still do it, isn't that
Maybe
worse?
That's worse, actually.
Yeah, like, hey, Ryan, like, you have this problem, man. I'm aware of it, but I'm going to make sure the problem gets worse. Like, that doesn't really solve anything here. But what you think about Cena, by the way? Because I will say this Cena promo was very different from what we've seen with Cena recently, ever since he came back. He channeled, I'm going to say, like 2005 Cena with his mannerisms and the way he spoke. And he even
sometimes he gets it back into that like thug-like speaking. Yeah. But I think he had just an amazing burn of just, you think you're going to beat me, but you didn't even beat Roman Reigns. Which is a lot of times you hear people like talk up a big game. Like you even see like someone like Kevin Owens talk up a huge game. But then it's like you just lost the last feud. Why are you talking such a big game? So I actually appreciated Cena kind of bringing that up.
Yeah, same. I liked it because that was what I was thinking of the moment he said it. Why should we give a damn, AJ? Like, I love you, man, but you did just a little. Okay, Cena's calling you out. Now what? Like, he's made an open reference to that. So wrestling is not just a 2-week span thing. That program's going to continue developing. And there is that amazingly probable chance that it's going to be AJ and Cena championing either Raw or SmackDown, and then Reigns and Rollins on the opposite brand. And like, if this is the case, I'm honestly kind of okay with it. We're not going to really get to a lot of Reigns and Rollins this episode because, we're going to focus on the predictions later when we get to that near Money in the Bank. But now I need, this is the light bulb was put on. I am breaking that light bulb right now because this is more venting because I don't even know. And Ryan, I want you to be as objective with me as possible because I don't know what they're doing with Primo and Epico. I get they're supposed to be bad guys, but it seems so low budget that I don't know. And this is where I need you to tell me if I'm wrong or not. Are they half-assing this so much on purpose just to get people like myself worked up over you're not even trying? From the horribly fake smiles to the early 80s phrases that they're saying to the terrible green screen footage that they have in the background. It's almost like a joke inside of a joke or something for these guys.
I've never understood the direction of this from the start. And I read a thing on Cage Side Seats that was basically saying, and my voice cracked there, but basically saying that Vince has already given up on it. And I want to know, why was it ever greenlit in the first place? This thing has been lost from the get-go. No one's ever really understood what it's supposed to mean. Are you guys heels that are, you have a lot of pride for Puerto Rico and you hate everywhere else? Well, show that. I wish there was more room for subtlety in wrestling, but there really isn't. And even if there is subtlety here, nobody gets it.
Yeah, because and I'm saying this from Puerto Rico. How do you have a tag team have weeks? It was about a month, right? Of them hyping them up. No, it was more, right? It was a month and a half or something. And everybody knows they were Los Matadores, right? So it's not this, hey, it's this brand new tag team. People already know. They have a match, and then you just take them off again. And they go right back to what they were doing before, which is having these forgettable things. Not even the announcers are making reference. So I'm not so much upset as to whether this is working or not. I'm just is this worth our time?
I just want to know who thought it was a good idea and what its actual purpose was.
Exactly. If the purpose is to at least bring Puerto Rico, some light, because we really do. We need that money. Puerto Rico is largely in debt right now. So please help us out. Do it with better green screen.
If they were going to help Puerto Rico, I think they can do much, much better than this. Let's be honest.
At least give us I don't know, what's the lowest tier? What is the lowest tier pay-per-view that we could get? What is the one pay-per-view everybody goes at and looks
Battleground or...
Give us Battleground. Give us a non-conclusive finish Ryback versus Cena Last Man Standing. We'll take that. It's going to bring money to at least that show. I don't know if that really helps Puerto Rico long-term, but, I'm desperate. I need to figure something out from all the negativity. Now, let's actually bring this up again. I'm going to screw in that light bulb again. Thanks, SpongeBob. Fatal 4-way at Money in the Bank. Thanks to, the persuasion of Mr. Teddy Long, the Mac Militant. We are getting a 4 corners tag team title match, which I'm super happy about. It's going to involve New Day, the Club. It's going to involve the Vaudevillains. And I legitimately forgot right now because we didn't write this in the agenda, which is the 4th team.
New Day, Vaudevillain. Is Enzo and Cass in it?
Yes, or Enzo no? And Cass. Thank you.
Are they?
Honestly, part of me is just still can you look this up while I'm talking? I'm going to keep talking as if that's the team. Keep in mind, I'm mentally still not used to the fact that Enzo's back. Yes, please do that so we don't sound even more ridiculous than we already do. But yeah, I like this, though. It's a really good opportunity to give all these tag teams a chance to shine. And, maybe they want to play it a little bit safer with guys like Enzo, who had that concussion and just got back. This gives people a good opportunity to watch guys like the Vaudevillains.
Yes, those are the teams, by the way.
Okay, good. So like my thing is, like, how good do you think this is for the tag teams? Because like I can compare this a lot to like the earlier TLC matches where maybe like you haven't really been fully sold on the Vaudevillains or Cass out of Enzo and Cass or something. And, you know, this is a fun opportunity to get some more exposure for these guys.
Yeah, to be honest, I was more looking forward to a New Day versus the Club kind of feud. But I'm definitely okay with this Fatal 4-Way right now because I like that they're keeping the Vaudevillains, especially the Vaudevillains and Enzo and Cass relevant. Because, I mean, Enzo and Cass will be fine. You throw them in, whatever. But the Vaudevillains are definitely the team that I think is pretty damn good, but definitely needs the most help in build-up at looking legitimate. So keeping them in the tag team title hunt, I think, is very important. So I think it is the right time for this kind of match.
I will say I'm very happy with the Vaudevillains because I've been open about this. I was not a huge fan of them in NXT. When they got called up, I was like, whatever. But something clicked. Like, I really can't pinpoint what. But I would say out of all the recent tag teams, you know, they've been the most successful at what they've had to do. And, like, I think it kind of sucks that they have some sort of, like, stigma. Like, a lot of people see them as, like, oh, they are there because they need a bad guy tag team. I'll say it right now. I prefer the Vaudevillains way more than I prefer the Club. Like, ridiculous. I know what kind of personality the Vaudevillains have. If I were to ask you, Ryan, which or what are Gallows and Anderson's current character traits or personalities, like, what would be the answer to that?
You'd be like, they are guys that are friends with AJ Styles and they're aggressive. That's all we know. Or at least we could say like, oh, the Vaudevillains, they're old school. They like to wrestle the style of kind of the old era. They're kind of reactionaries. They believe that things need to go back to the way they were.
And it's just so weird. I don't know if they only want to focus on AJ, so that's why they don't have them doing that, because like they do have personality. We've seen that. You know, if you look at any New Japan footage or something, it's there. So I'm not sure why that's happening, because it just doesn't really do a lot. But can we expect any levels of craziness in this match? Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's a tag ladder match, so it's probably going to be pretty insane. I mean, Kofi Kingston in the match, things are going to get, there's going to be some good spots in there. Let me just look at the teams again, just so I'm kind of looking at everyone. It's not going to be as high-flyy as we're used to with these kind of matches, though. Because, I mean, you got the Club, the Vaudevillains, Enzo and Cass. I mean, Enzo does some flying stuff, but he's not that crazy. So it's really Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston are gonna kind of be the biggest kind of high flyers in this match. I mean, Big E, we know he does some crazy stuff with the spear through the ropes and stuff, but it's not. I don't think it's gonna be quite like some of the previous tag ladder matches we've gotten, where you have Kalisto and Sin Cara in there flying around.
How crazy is it that if you look at the four teams, the New Day are technically, by WWE standards, the veteran tag team. Like, it's finally happened. It's finally happened. The New Day are not the new thing. They are
the old guard of this tag division, which is pretty wild.
Man, just things keep changing. I like that. I know that not necessarily everybody's a fan. I brought it up in the podcast every once in a while. I like to sort of send out a text message or call friends that were primarily fans of the Attitude Era, because like I want to get a different perspective. And yeah, like they're having a tough time. Like they're having a tough time figuring out, like, there's all these new guys. Who do I sort of adapt? Like everybody's always looking for the next Stone Cold or HBK. So like everybody's just out there making comparisons. Just enjoy everybody for what they are. But right now in this tag team match, I'm actually hoping the Vaudevillains win, but we'll see what happens when we get to that next week.
There's a bit of a mystery going on. I don't know if have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
No, but tell me, Carmen.
It's right now. There's 6 people in that Money in the Bank ladder match, right?
Yes, the
if
one
my
for the
math
briefcase.
is correct.
Yes.
What happened to the 7th man? They said they were going to have some sort of qualifying match, and now for the past 2 Raws, nothing happened.
Ryan, I'm sorry. This is breaking news. I didn't put this in the agenda, but I have some rumors that it's either going to be Rex or Stevie Richards. It's going to be one of the two. Don't quote me on this. Nobody quote me on this, but that's what I've heard. There's a WWE janitor that gave me a call. But honestly, I really don't know. It's odd. We actually got a question.
Uncle who works for WWE.
Yeah, man. I'm actually scrolling around here because somebody said a fan of the show, Jarrett Qualls, actually sent a question. What if the 7th man is Neville coming back? Now that's a possibility, but and it would make the match fun. I'm just not sure if is Neville good enough to be that 7th? Hey, we completely stop referencing that 7th spot kind of guy.
That might be the reason, is because they realized they could save it for a surprise entrance. So I think that's a very real possibility, and it would probably fit the timeline of when he would be coming back.
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned, he would make that match great, right? Neville is highly athletic.
Yeah, no chance of winning, but he definitely would add to the match for sure, though.
Man, the power of positivity.
Yeah,
man,
I feel so negative.
Awesome in that
was
match.
mean. Neville is great, but let's be real, folks.
You're channeling your inner Keith, man. I'm not sure if I like that or not.
I have to take Keith's place and be so negative today. Feels
Next
bad, man.
Are you Canadian yet?
I'm sorry. Wait, maybe I am.
How's it feel? Tell me. How's it feel?
Feels
Ryan?
like maple syrup. that sounded weird. Let's just go to the announcements.
Yeah, let's please do that. Okay, gang. So whether you listen to us on the road, in the bathroom, in your car, at work, just don't tell anybody, or you check us out on the YouTube channel. We do have square roundtables that happen on the YouTube channel, which are specific one video topics. I said that all word, but basically it's one video, one topic. It comes out about every 2 weeks or so. We took a little bit of break because of Fight Night and other things that were happening, which thank you for the incredible support for the finale. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, as we mentioned, episode 150 is going to signal a lot of changes for Byte That as a whole, and this week we kickstart some of those changes. So for the first time ever, we have a community guest on a score roundtable. So in that one, this was filmed before Fight Night, we have Keith, myself, and Hayden Fox. Now he has his own YouTube channel, WWE Town Nation. He's supported many things such as the New Age Insiders podcast, the Wrestleathon, which is an awesome 48-hour video game marathon towards supporting the Child's Play charity. And we reached out to him because, we want to give a spotlight to those people that contribute to YouTube channels, to those that have their own wrestling YouTube channels. And we're going to be talking about what makes a great wrestling theme. So the three of us have a conversation, and later on in a couple of weeks, Ryan, myself, and Hayden, we're going to be having another topic, but that's going to be announced at a later time. Now, something else, as Ryan mentioned, our shirts are available at whatamaneuver.net. Now, as a little incentive, if you do get yourself a copy of the shirt, and by copy, I mean a shirt, whether it be purple or black, send us a tweet, ByteThatCast, or email ByteThatCast@gmail.com with some kind of proof of purchase, and we're going to give you a shout out on the show. Now, right now, awesome fan and supporter Misfit Matthew was the first ever purchaser of the shirt. Was even called out by What a Maneuver for the accomplishment. So thank you, man, for supporting us. And remember, if you want a shout out, all you got to do is get yourself one of them shirts. And more things will hopefully be coming. Now, Ryan, can you give us some hype for in about 4 weeks' time? It's that 150. 150, man.
150, man. 4 weeks away from episode 150. It's insane to think that we've done 146 of these podcasts, but it's really cool and it's a huge accomplishment. So 150, it's going to be a pretty special episode, and there's going to be an announcement about sort of the direction of Byte That, we're going to be kind of letting you guys know where we're looking towards the future and how you can help make Byte That great again. I had to say it.
We're not Darren Young. We don't have Bob Backlund here, but all that we're going to say right now is that we know that everybody, in some way, shape, or form, you will enjoy our discussion videos and the podcast, and we want to make sure that as we grow, we can provide better or even more or just more accessible content for everybody. So stay tuned to 150. We're going to continue hyping it because it's going to be pretty great. And last quick thing, thanks to everybody that hung out on the Fight Night season finale Twitch stream. Happened this past Friday. It was ridiculous. I mean, like, I sat there pretty much as a fan. Ryan was there, Keith was there, but he's not anymore. And yeah, any closing comments about that, man?
That was probably some of the most fun we've ever had doing anything Byte That related. We had a nice group show up and just enjoy chatting about Fight Night, and we let in on little details about what went into the show and all that. We just had a ton of fun, and I think a lot of people were very surprised with the finale. So if you have not seen the Fight Night finale, all the episodes are up on the YouTube channel, and the finale is up as well, so you can see a shocking ending to Fight Night Season 2, to say the least.
Yeah, there's over 3 hours of Fight Night available on the channel, so you can check that out. And by the way, because a lot of people, more so than Fight Night, reacted positively towards us doing live content, so we can react. So if anybody has any suggestions or ideas, once again, anything that we do, we got to make sure that it doesn't affect our personal or professional life. But we're always curious. What do you guys think that we should do related to that? We are more than open for your awesome suggestions. So happening tomorrow, this is a little bit weird because traditionally the takeovers happen at different dates. The next takeover title, The End, is happening. Now, we're not going to get to our predictions here. We're sort of more going to measure the temperature and talk a little bit about a conference call that Triple H held, where apparently, Ryan, now this was said by the King of Kings himself, The End is not just a reference, or apparently not just a reference for Finn Balor and Samoa Joe ending their rivalry. It apparently may mean more. There's a quote from Justin LaBar. Triple H says event being called The End has a lot of meanings, and you'll see that on Wednesday. Ryan, talk to me. What's going on here? I'm scared.
I'm a little hesitant about Justin LaBar at times. I'll just say that. Sometimes his news isn't always reliable, but anyway, I think there's going to be definitely some direction change to NXT directly related to the brand split. I think a lot of people are going to get called up. However, I'm pretty sure Triple H did also announce that there was going to be an NXT takeover around SummerSlam time. So we know the takeover model is still alive and well. So I would just expect things to maybe kind of sort of jump back to more of an old school NXT, which feels weird to say, but it's going to be kind of going back more to the Bo Dallas days where there's a few names there, but it's not as many indie stars there because they're going to be up on the main roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much this is going to shift the product. We have had a lot of guys recently be called up, so I don't think it's going to be as big a change as people think. Because, if you compare NXT now to a year ago, it's become a different product. Right? For better or worse, I know you don't watch it a lot. You watch primarily the takeovers I keep up on a week-to-week basis. But even by just reading results or even the card for the show, you have the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, who's finally getting some spotlight, taking on Andre Almas. He was known as La Sombra before WWE. He's making his debut. You have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Aries, Asuka versus Nia Jax, American Alpha versus The Revival, and Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor in the first ever NXT Steel Cage match. Now, talking about that for a couple of minutes, what do you think about this? Joe and Balor have had multiple battles, multiple fights at NXT Takeover, as a matter of fact. Samoa Joe's the champion. Cage matches are something that we're not necessarily in love with because of how they do those. Do you think this is going to be any different?
I do think it's going to be different. I just feel like things are a little bit grittier in NXT for sure during the takeovers, and this just looks like another solid card. I mean, I believe 2 of them are actually rematches from the previous takeover, if I'm not mistaken. Did we see
American
the Revival
Alpha
versus
Revival. Yeah,
and that was an excellent match, and
awesome match.
And Balor versus Joe didn't really get its justice at the previous takeover, so I feel like they're going to make sure that they make up for that. And then Asuka in anything is amazing. And I don't know too much about the guy fighting Ty Dillinger. I know he was in Japan, right?
No, he was in Mexico in CMLL.
Okay.
So apparently, because I really haven't watched any matches either, but he used to be a masked wrestler who's now being unmasked. So similar to Sami Zayn, who's been long rumored to be El Generico previously. And whatever they're hoping to get out of this guy, if they're willing to take the mask off, they got to see something in the guy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Alberto Del Rio was another one.
I'm looking forward to, seeing what he has to offer, because I pretty much know nothing about him, so I hope to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, same, man, same. Now, this seems like a fake story, right? Like, if you read this, you would say, okay, so this is out of kayfabe news, Brock Lesnar in both WWE and UFC, nah, this isn't happening. Well, it is. He's actually fighting before CM Punk, as a matter of fact. Brock Lesnar just had an interview with Paul Heyman as part of Heyman Hustle. I don't know if you were you able to watch that video interview?
I was not, but I did hear that it happened.
Yeah, so I watched it just before we hit the record button now. Brock Lesnar basically addressed the reasoning as to why this is happening, going as far as to stating that he is the one that called Dana White. So he was being very humble in this interview. I love seeing this different kind of Lesnar that we don't see in WWE, where he talked about his condition that almost got him killed, right? Lesnar has said it so many times. Even before UFC, he had diverticulitis. Is it the name?
Diverticulitis,
yes. Thank you, man. And he's going to be going into the octagon. He's not doing this as a way to have some kind of redemption path. He's not going into this as a way to avenge the losses that he did have. He was very much this is something that I want to do, so I made the phone call, so this is happening. Only things Brock Lesnar can do, man. What did you think about this? Because, nobody, this was not a rumor in any way.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy. I mean, Brock Lesnar is going to do UFC, and then he's apparently going to be at SummerSlam too. Who's the guy he's fighting UFC? Is it Mark Hunt or
battling
something?
Mark Hunt. Yeah. Now, that third guy in the podcast was mentioning that apparently this should be an outstanding fight, which is happening in July, by the way. Now, for context, usually whenever fights are announced, it's a couple of months before it happens. This is in a month. It is insane.
Pretty big deal. I mean, Lesnar, he's always in great shape, so I guess it doesn't take him too long to get into fighting shape. Apparently, Lesnar's even the underdog. So something WWE will never do is have Lesnar be the underdog. And then, I mean, this has to also be the shortest span of time that someone would do a UFC match and then a WWE match. I could be wrong there, but seems pretty
unless we
wild.
look up some Shamrock information or something,
Yeah,
I really
maybe.
can't tell you about that. But how significant do you think this is for both companies, not just one?
If Lesnar wins, I think it's very good for both parties. WWE is probably going to want something in return from UFC if they're letting Lesnar do this. There might have been something in his contract about being able to do...
There's been rumors that apparently WWE wants, and once again, they're rumors for a reason, they're interested in female fighters showing up at SummerSlam, so maybe some kind of exchange of talent. I mean, it's not within the realm, of it could happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And the funny thing is, I think with this Lesnar going to UFC for UFC 200, I think they said UFC, whatever one that CM Punk's going to be on, I think it's supposed to be 202.
Yeah.
SummerSlam is going to be like a advertised during that, like promoted during that. So we could see someone on Reddit joked that during a replay of CM Punk getting knocked out, this CM Punk getting knocked out is brought to you by WWE SummerSlam. Now, how much of a riot would that be?
Like, we laugh at that, but that seems totally plausible. Like, let's be honest here. And, like, are we gonna get CM Punk doing the Lex Luger thing where, like, one night he's in UFC, but then, like, hey, what's this Phil Brooks guy? On Raw or SummerSlam, I should say. It's insane, but I love this, right? Like, within the past 2 years, we've had, you look at the main roster, AJ Styles and basically the Bullet Club, right? Like, maybe not directly by name. And then Austin Aries, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Now, Brock Lesnar is both in some way employed by the UFC and the WWE. And the night before SummerSlam, CM Punk is going to be fighting at UFC, which is going to be promoting SummerSlam. If you go back in time, yeah, nobody would you believe that?
See, sometimes reality is stranger than fiction.
It truly, really is. But, I mean, with the brand split and everything happening, I just hope that WWE manages to get some sort of momentum. I'm getting, some websites that are stating that Mark Hunt thinks he's going to kick Brock Lesnar's ass. But, I mean, like, would he say the opposite? Like, I think he would like to say, hey, I'm going to beat you, man. Because otherwise, like,
you gotta have confidence and a big ego to make it in things like the UFC. So, of course, he thinks he's gonna win. He should. That's the mindset he should go in with.
Exactly. So, like, we'll see what happens. SummerSlam could be an outstanding show. Brock Lesnar's confirmed to be wrestling there. Who's he gonna wrestle? I don't know. But
Roman Reigns, I mean, Vince McMahon, he would get the biggest chub in the world if Lesnar wins at UFC and then he gets to have Reigns beat Lesnar at SummerSlam. Like, that Vince gif, you could do that Vince gif where he falls out of his chair for that one.
Linda, get more paper towels. So wrong. But man, it's gonna be awful if Brock loses, because then, like, as much as WWE may try to cover that up, you lost, man, and that's gonna bring you down. You may be Brock Lesnar, but that's gonna bring you down in some form.
Yeah, it would really suck if the first person to beat Brock Lesnar after the Undertaker streak is a guy from UFC. It would kind of it would really suck all the wind out of his WWE momentum.
Yeah, it really, really would. But that's all the information we really have right now. So until we get a little bit more, we're just going to wait for next week's podcast episode. But as always, we always appreciate your awesome, fun, random, or deep and dark discussion-related questions that you send us to Byte That Cast on Twitter with the hashtag AskBT, bytethatcast@gmail.com, or if you are enjoying this experience on YouTube, simply drop us a comment on the latest podcast episode. So with that being said, Keith, take it. Oh.
What?
All right. Ryan, you take it away.
I guess I'll read the questions. Second best, I suppose.
Do a good job.
Our first question comes from Zach Hardy, who we actually haven't heard from since the early days of Byte That. So it's great to see you back, man.
Vintage Hardy.
Yeah, he was, this goes way back to like 2013 Byte That days. Anyway, his question, what are your thoughts on small local independent wrestling promotions that feature performers who have had their names recognized in larger promotions?
So I think a recent example could be like Bull Dempsey, gets let go from NXT. So now he's Bull James, Virgil, who's Virgil. And doing Virgil things. I mean, honestly, it gets people in the door. It gets more people paid. like, I think that if you only focus on that, then what happens when you don't have that, right? Like a former WWE or ECW or TNA or whatever superstar, then people don't show up. So as long as it's there to build up other guys from your local talent, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple different promotions out there, and there's those really small promotions that they do really need at least one name to get people in the door. If you have any former TNA or, Ring of Honor or current Ring of Honor or whatever, or former WWE guy there, it's going to get a lot of people in the door. It's going to get a lot of eyes on a lot of other people. So it really works out for everyone. So other times, like there was a promotion I went to last summer where it was a lot of, well-recognized talent. And I feel like that's kind of like a different level of show where, they're kind of getting all, like, it's kind of an amalgamation of all the top indie stars.
Yeah, one example I actually wanted to bring, I mentioned before, I did work in production for a local company down here. And about 2 years ago, we had a pretty long-going storyline, and we needed a guy from the States to really put the local guy over. Because the idea is that's what usually happens, right? You're bringing the, I really can't talk. Just for context, like my asthma's been running up lately, so like if I sound a little weird, I do apologize for that. It's like weather's been crazy down here in Puerto Rico. Anyway, we were looking for somebody, and the Natural, Chase Stevens, was part of the Naturals in TNA. He was the one that did that insane shooting star press from the top of the cage, the 6 sides of steel. So we brought him in and like had this very lengthy program. But because he wrestled guys like AJ Styles, I did interview him a couple of times, and I could bring that stuff up and I could say, hey, check that out on YouTube. So people locally maybe didn't know too much about him, but they could see the match where he wrestled AJ Styles. And eventually the feud concluded with an awesome victory by the local talent over Chase Stevens. It was an awesome experience. Awesome to really get to work with like somebody that's worked with bigger companies. Because like even just like the little things, the things they don't do. Because like they tend to do like half the moves that everybody else does, but people are way more invested because they've had that exposure, right? They know what works and what doesn't. So it's not only great for getting people in the door, it's also great for the wrestlers because they get to learn more about how to really improve what they're doing.
Yeah, there's always a ton of benefit. So thank you, the returning Zach Hardy, for the question. Our next question comes from Christian Showman. And he asks, will Juan have his Spanish segment?
Okay, so here we go, Ryan.
When will Juan?
Yes. So give me one topic and I'll talk about it in Spanish for like 10, 20 seconds. Just give me anything.
Okay,
man.
What's your thought on bologna?
Bueno, para mí bologna me gusta mucho con queso. Personalmente yo lo evito, yo prefiero jamón. Pero si tengo que comerlo con una buena tostadita, mantequilla, ya tú sabes, papi, eso lo disfruto, me lo como y entonces veo un poquito de lucha libre en la WWE Network.
All right. I got WWE Network and Lucha Libre out of that. All right. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Mr. Cody Collier asking, what do you think could happen if Lesnar loses and has to miss SummerSlam due to injury after UFC 200?
I mean, that is a tough call, right? Like, we really don't know.
It is a risk they have to take.
Yeah. You can look at somebody like Ronda Rousey, where after she lost, a lot of people were saying, oh, she disappeared. She actually was injured in her fight. So it wasn't just a simple thing of, hey, you recover. Like Brock Lesnar, as much as he may be a beast, I have heard rumors as well that he's also a living, breathing human being.
Yeah, that's the thing. UFC doesn't always get to give the storybook ending quite like WWE does. So that is definitely a risk. We hope that if he does end up losing, that he at least is able to perform at SummerSlam. So hopefully that fight goes well. I'd like to see Lesnar win. All right. So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from a friend of the show, Cynical Cypher. At Cynical Cypher Y2. It always reminds me of Scyther, the Pokemon, for some reason. Anyway, he asks, Big Show is about to deliver a knockout punch to you. What do you do aside from the Miz taint spot, which I believe he is referencing something from that house show that Keith saw and the spot never happened?
Yeah. Wow, that's a throwback.
It is a throwback.
I would probably cry excessively first, like for a couple of hours, just knowing that may happen at some point. And I would just wake up a couple of days later in the hospital. So, I mean, like, what else could really happen there, right?
So the kayfabe Big Show knockout punch, I would just duck and then run for my life because it's not super fast, but his fist does cover a lot of area. So it's pretty easy to at least get grazed by it. So yeah, duck and run for my life. That's what I would do, but I don't know if I'd be fast enough.
You're talking about it as if you know, like, you know, because it may seem slow on TV, Ryan, but once you get punched with that, I mean, it's going to be savage up in your brain.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt it, but, you know, I can at least give my best effort to get away from it.
That's true.
All right, our next question comes from Ryan Davis at Ryan Davis Speaks. Apparently I can't speak, but Ryan Davis can.
Yes.
So he asked 2 questions. First, what's next for Fight Night?
Well, Fight Night did conclude its 2nd season, and blurring the lines a little bit, whatever it is that happens related to that show, it won't be for a good while, is about as much as we probably can say right now, but a very good while.
Yes, there's ideas floating around, but it's going to be away for an extended period of time. But we believe it will be back. His second question, are you loving the Backlund Young clips as much as I am?
I like them. They're short, right? They're short, fun, a little ridiculous, and it gets Darren Young on TV and an opportunity to get a different type of his personality, like not live, so you get to see like the best version, I guess, you know, the best take of that. Aside from that, I really still don't know like how far they're going to go with this. Like it better lead to some kind of title opportunity. But yeah, it's a fun little thing.
Yeah, I think it has some promise. I really want to see that chemistry between the two develop a little more. It still seems a little off, but I honestly do think it has potential. So I hope it keeps going and actually starts going somewhere. Thank you for the question. Our next question comes from NRGVHD. Interesting name. He says, hey guys, my question is, if you could choose one person to fit best in a tag team with Neville, who would it be?
I mean, is Apollo Crews a little too obvious for that?
That would actually be awesome.
Like, it would be cool. It's 2 guys that basically fit the same mold, right? Like, they're buff. They're the stuff, and the girls just can't get enough, and they're high-flying, and they're acrobatic. They're ridiculous, right? Like, you don't think they are athletic as they actually are. So that would actually be my pick.
Yeah, they would actually be an amazingly fun tag team. All the standing, like, they could just go back and forth just doing standing shooting stars to somebody on the ground. Like, that would be amazing. And then the only other person I could think of is Sami Zayn, but I don't really want to see Sami Zayn in the tag division, but they would make a hell of a tag team.
They would.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Cameron Hutton, and they ask, do you think the brand split gives the opportunity for some people like Cruz, Brooke, and the Shining Stars to go to NXT?
Now, Shining Stars, I mean, I appreciate you actually bringing them up. So somebody is, curious about what they can do with them. But this is actually a really interesting topic. Like, we've talked about, hey, how this brand, some people may be called up from NXT to the main roster. Is there a possibility where some people sort of go back down for repackaging? Like, I would not discount that. We've had guys like Cesaro, Tyson Kidd, and they had great things. Emma reinvented her career thanks to NXT. It sucks that she got injured, but NXT saved her WWE career, I would say. So yeah, I would think it's possible with Cruz and Brooke. It would be weird, like you just got called up, so you get called back down. But if they want to go through with the draft, anything's possible.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of all hands on deck right now because of the brand split. So I don't know if they can really afford to send people down. I feel like they need to bring people up just to cover their bases with both rosters. I don't doubt that Apollo Crews could probably benefit from some sort of repackaging. I mean, he doesn't even really have kind of a gimmick right now. But definitely just to add a little bit of flair to him, and Shining Stars, we'll see what happens with that. But that probably needs to be kind of reworked in some way. I think Dana Brooke is fine, though. Thank you for the question, though. Our next question comes from Tanner. And he asks,
Danny?
if you could pick a face and heel finisher for Rollins, barring the curb stomp, what would you pick?
Okay, so face and heel finisher for Rollins. For heel, I would keep the pedigree because it does fit as a heel character, right? Like, it has this stigma. It has this thing. And as far as a babyface one, I believe he recommended the Phoenix Splash. I will say that, like, it's a cool move. It's high flying. I think a lot of people forget how athletic Rollins can be, right? It seems like everybody can just do some athletic stuff nowadays. And if it was not that, he mentioned on the podcast last week with Chris Jericho that he was contemplating actually using the springboard knee before, obviously, AJ came in and then started using the phenomenal forearm. That would have been cool. Like, it probably would have been bad for his knees, but it would have been cool.
Yeah, I'm fine with the pedigree. If the super kick wasn't so overused, I think that would be kind of cool for him, too. The Phoenix Splash, I kind of like as a super finisher. I don't like it as an every single match type of finisher. I feel like it's you bust that out on a special occasion to win a match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the pedigree is fine. And, yeah, I mean, you could give him something a little more high-flying, like that knee. But, yeah, what he has is fine now because we know we're not getting the curb stomp back, and we miss it. But thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Draven G, asking, with rumors going around that Hideo Itami will finally be making his return after being out for over a year, do you still think there's room in the spotlight for him now that Nakamura is in WWE? Big fan of the show, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And ain't gonna lie, like, Hideo, I saw him a lot, like, not in, like, the 2-3 years before he went into WWE, but I did see him a lot, like, you know, way earlier, like when CM Punk was still touring the indie scene, or somewhere around there. Basically, like a lot of years ago. The moment he went into NXT, I felt nothing. He got injured. It's been forever. And his action figures are always available at my local Walmart. So just as a quick little, you know.
He didn't get a lot of time to shine, all right, man?
Yeah, but like, okay, what do you think? What do you think? Because, like, I know you don't watch a lot of NXT now, but you did watch NXT consistently when he was around.
Yeah, I mean, just because he's also Japanese doesn't mean that there's not room for him just because Nakamura's around. Nakamura obviously brings just a lot more charisma to the table, but there's definitely a place for Itami, and he'll probably have to spend more time in NXT than Nakamura, who I suspect will get called up relatively soon. But I think there's definitely a place for both guys, especially, like I said, brand split, they need all the help they can get. There's definitely a place for him.
Definitely.
And we know he's talented, for sure. Thank you for the question. Next question comes from Wrestling Associated, who I recognize from joining us at the Twitch stream. So thank you, sir. I know there's a few others who had questions that were there as well. If Goldberg returns, who should his opponent be?
It should be Reigns. Like, I really don't see anybody else. And I would say, like, this is the match that Goldberg comes in, and he has that Sting program. I'm going to label that the Sting program. Here comes this legend. He loses, goes into the Hall of Fame, disappears.
Yeah, that's I'd be totally cool with that. Here's how Goldberg has to debut, right? It's got to be at the end of the summer, right? Before Ryback's contract expires, right? They say, listen, Ryback, we know it's not going to work out, but do us a solid on this one because I think you'll like it. So Ryback comes out and it's like, oh man, Ryback's back. That sounds weird.
Ryback's back. All right.
And he starts talking smack and all that. And then you hear the usual Goldberg chants at him. And then he starts talking smack about Goldberg. And then Goldberg actually shows up and spears Ryback and everyone loses their shit. And then you eventually transition that into a build-up between Reigns and Goldberg eventually. But I mean, if Ryback is as much of a wrestling fan as I think he is, that's going to be a great way to go out. You know, he dealt with those Ryback chants his whole career. It's just like, just let
Goldberg chants. Like he looks for the Ryback chants. Like those are good for him. That's what he wants,
dealt with
man.
those Goldberg chants your entire career. Let Goldberg spear you on your way out. You're going to leave anyway. Just that would be an awesome way to go out. So that's how I would do it. But yeah, Reigns is definitely the most intriguing matchup. I know some people want to see Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg to like redeem that. No. But it's just like, no, there's no redeeming that. Just walk away from it. But thank you for the question. All right, our final question, is it even a question?
It's a special thing. It's a special thing.
All right, I gotta clear my throat here. Take a swig of water for the working man, because this is a hell of a read.
Tribute to the Waterman.
Yes, Kane Yo-Yo. But anyway, this story comes from, I don't even know how to pronounce this name. Is it Renus?
Renus M? Let's go with that.
Renus M. Hi guys, seeing the success of my idea for Juan in WWE, I knew something was missing, and it was Keith and Ryan. So in celebration of my 2-year subscription to you guys, thank you, I created the ultimate Byte That Wrestling WWE storyline. Thanks for every video. Thank you. So the Shining Stars are ruling WWE. We're getting pretty bold from the get-go here. Primo and Epico are tag team champions, and they destroy every tag team in WWE. Meanwhile, No Way Jose unifies the Intercontinental Championship and U.S. title to create the WWE Caribbean Championship. I don't know how that even happened. You combine all the other continents and it becomes the Caribbean Championship.
I love it.
But Vince is worried because No Way Jose is near the WWE belt and he has no control over it. So he decides to call his friend the Macho Man Macho Man Jr. I thought it was the Macho Man Jr. The Macho Man Jr. Ryan McNulty to reunite the Ultimate Team to face the Shining Stars. But in the shadows, Keith Bazooka Poshik hears the conversation and he decides to create the Canadian Dream Team to stop Juan and Ryan to control WWE. Macho Man JR recruits John Cena, Jack Swagger, and Kurt Angle to defend the honor of the U.S., and they call themselves the Macho Americans.
That's amazing.
And Canada talks to Canada Keith talks to Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, and Sami Zayn to form the Canadian Destroyers. Poor Petey Williams.
Yeah, man.
In a match between New Day and Shining Stars, the Canadian Destroyers appear and interfere in the match and attack the Shining Stars with hockey sticks and eat some Canadian bacon. Totally not stereotypical. Next, Raw, the Macho Americans attack backstage the Canadian Destroyers and interfere in No Way Jose's match for the #1 contendership for the WWE Championship. And Juan goes berserk and attacks Ryan. And Ryan says, in the name of the Slim Jim, I'm going to,
No,
you.
Ryan, back the truck up. You got to do it right. You gotta
in the name of the Slim Jim, I'm going to on you. But out of nowhere, the Canadian Destroyers attack both teams, and Vince goes, I'm mad with all of you. In the next pay-per-view, it's the match we've all been waiting for. Shining Stars versus Canadian Destroyers versus Macho Americans.
Ryan, wow. I love you, but I don't know how I feel about you. Quote unquote, you're going to on me. I don't know what that is. Like
I'm not sure what that means. But I believe it is open to interpretation, Juan. But thank you for the story, sir. We appreciate the effort, and I think we were entertained as hell by it. So thank you very much.
That being said, I've actually never had Canadian bacon.
Isn't it just like ham, like circular ham?
Yeah, it looks like ham. Like, I've never had it. I've had opportunities to buy it and like
You've never had like ham, egg, and cheese?
Yeah, but like
that's Canadian bacon, technically.
Oh, well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure.
I prefer
it's just
the
like
fatty American bacon.
All right. Let's go to the Google for this.
It's the circular type ham thing. That is the official term, by the way.
It's just circular ham. It's just like sliced ham.
Yeah, so like, shouldn't it be Canadian ham?
Just go with it, man. It's definitely inferior to regular bacon, but nevertheless.
Bacon is serious business. Like, aside from podcasting and wrestling stuff, and like, I don't know what about Moo, like, bacon is the most important part of everybody's life, right? Unless you're vegetarian, in which case this doesn't apply to you. So, bacon, Canadian versus American, everybody. This is a personal thing. I need to know. Which one do you prefer and why? I'm pretty sure it's not
going to be a contest.
There's going to be that one guy. Ryan. And it may be the other Ryan. It may be Ryan Davis.
The hashtag bacon off begins tonight.
The bacon off. It sounds weird, but, we already went with it. But thank you guys for your awesome, awesome questions. Ryan, I know that you just finished talking, but talk some more. What's going on, man? Talk some more.
Thank you guys for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. Before we get out of here, just a few quick things to mention. Our YouTube channel, of course, all the content you can catch. YouTube.com/Byte That Cast. Hit the subscribe button if you have not already. This Friday, we got another SRT coming up with guest Hayden Fox, WWE Town Nation, where we're going to be talking about what makes a great wrestling theme. Of course, we also thank everyone who attended our Twitch stream of Fight Night. So thank you guys again for that. That was a really great time. And of course, hey, the Byte That t-shirt's out. If you want to be the coolest kid in town, you can go over to whatamaneuver.net and get the Byte That t-shirt. Of course, our social media at Byte That Cast on Twitter, Facebook.com/Byte That Cast, Instagram, Byte That. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bacon is a serious topic.